Hello, good morning, everyone. So welcome to the API Days Hong Kong. Once again, we are having API Days Hong Kong this year, and very welcome for everyone to join the sections these 2 days. I'm Patrick, the organizer of API Days Hong Kong, and the founder of Beautiful Tea. So today's we are going to have a different kind of talks, workshop, and roundtable so that we can give you the latest insight and trend about APIs. So let me share the screen so that I can introduce you what you can expect these 2 days. Okay. So first of all, so I think every one of you may know API is having the role to connect the system, but what about the people behind? So with the vision of connecting the human behind the API, so that's why we have the API Days conference. This is a conference series around the world, and then we bring it to Hong Kong 3 years ago. As said, this is the Hong Kong event. We will be also having the others API Days event in the later this year, and also welcome to join. Some of them is in a hybrid mode, and some of them is a physical event. And hopefully in next year we can also do it in the physical mode. Okay, so this year actually is also the 10 years anniversary of the Days Global Conference. So I am also want to introduce Mehdi. He is the founder of API Days Conference, and let him introduce a bit on the global committee. So Mehdi, I pass the time to you first.
Yeah, thank you very much, Patrick, and hello, everyone. I'm really glad to be there for the third edition of API Days Hong Kong. Yes, and as Patrick was saying, API Days is a series of conferences happening every year in approximately 10 countries. It started 10 years ago in 2012. We believed that, yes, APIs were the enabler of the digital revolution, but we needed to connect the human behind APIs. So API Days is more than 80 events, more than 70,000 past attendees, 20,000 companies, and for an online community of 300,000 members. We thank you to be part of this community. And waiting for Patrick to be back to explain the program, I really want to show you 3 initiatives that we are running at API Days that may interest you. The first one is the API Industry Landscape. So we map like more than 1,000 API tools, and we get numbers, funding, number of employees, products, estimation of revenues, and we try to also explain and map the industry into different sections and subsections to know exactly where the market is trending and the market is going. So we deliver that in a landscape called the State of the Market 2022. But we also publish a map that you can access to a specific website that you can see on API Scene. API landscape.apiscene.io. You'll be able to browse the landscape, click on different companies, get all the infos you need, or even download the map if you want. The second initiative I want to talk about is the APIscene. It's a media platform on APIs. It's a community-driven platform where attendees and speakers can write articles on APIs and that are shared with the whole 300,000 members community. So if you are interested into API news or if you write API articles, APIscene is the platform for you. So we invite you to apply to be a guest author. Last but not least on our initiative, it's the initiative we run also globally on the 10 events, is the Women in API initiatives. Of course, in tech conferences, we lack of gender diversity. And this is why we wanted to be sure that enough women are encouraged and interested to apply to tech conferences. So in the call for papers or call for speakers, we have enough gender diversity to make a fair selection and to have enough representation of all genders at tech conferences. So it's the Women in API is a program. It's a scouting and coaching program for female engineers, designers, analysts who are interested in APIs to get trained into speaking and apply to tech conferences, APIs, but also to other tech conferences. So if you are a female who think you should be in the Women API program, or if you know a female who must be and should be in the Women API program, don't hesitate to refer and share the link that you can see at apis.global/initiative-women-in-APIs. This is the 3 initiatives I really wanted to talk about. We run globally, but now Patrick is the master of ceremony for APIs Hong Kong. So Patrick, please explain us what we expect for APIs Hong Kong 3rd edition. You're on mute, Patrick, I think.
Okay, sorry. Thanks for the reminder. So, okay. So, I will also want to say, Mehdi will be helping on the one table facilitation today, and he will also talk a bit on his API industry landscape tomorrow. So, don't miss the section if you're interested. So, let's go to the something about the API Days Hong Kong. So, some of you may be joining the event for a few years, and some of the speaker also supporting us for 3 years as well. So, talking about the history of API Day Hong Kong, it is back to 3 years ago. At that time, we are still doing the hybrid event. So we are becoming the largest vendor neutral API conference in Hong Kong. And now we get lots of support from the industry, ecosystem, and speakers. So in these 3 years, what is happening? So we discuss a lot with our speakers. So with the help of the ecosystem, there's an increasing public awareness of the open API frameworks in open banking. And this year also have some discussion on open insurance as well. So that's why we also have some speakers from insurance sector to share about their thoughts. And we can also see some enterprise and bank is now more open to explore collaboration, which may not be happened in the past. Although there's still a lot of challenge talk about the data security concerns, but now the parties is now working towards together how to solve the problem. And with more and more experience, we can also see a lot of people now understand open API or open banking is actually the way to scale, but not the actual reason. So we need to explore different kind of colors, contexts, and this is why we need to do the open banking or open finance. And with this kind of knowledge and lesson learned, we also can see with the work of quite a bit of our ecosystem partner, the ways of the platform economy. So some of the company or bank, they may not be directly facing the kind, but become a platform that work with different partner to help to interface with their customer or client with a better experience. And also the last one is we can see the developer role is now also changing. They are now in the center of the API first transformation. And then those people with those team with a developer or API focus is actually can respond quicker and in a more agile way. So this in order to address this kind of question and discussion, we help to line up quite a lot of speakers in these 2 days. So you can expect 40 sections, 4 workshops, and we actually more than 1,000 audience are joining these 2 days as well. So hopefully you can enjoy the section and then pick the track that you are interested. So about the platform today, so some of you may be familiar with this, but some may be new to us. So in this platform, there's 2 tabs, so a few tabs, so you can see the track, the poll, also people joining the conference here. So you can feel free to network each other to make friends here in this event. And if you want to join different stage, make sure you go to the stage section and pick the track 1, track 2 of the workshop so that you will not miss the actual time of the sections. Okay, and last but not least, we are also having these different kind of the expo from our sponsors, from our committees, etc. So you can see what they are doing and maybe become some special offer from them. Okay, so once again, we want to thanks for our sponsor here to make the third API Days conference happen again. So we have our Gold Sponsor Conference. Really thanks for their support, and then they have offered some special roundtable and workshop section today as well. And we are also thanks for AWS and also Liwedic. They are also providing support to us, and also have some specific workshops showcasing their leading edge technologies. And last but not least, we are working closely with a few community partners, including the Computer Society in Hong Kong, the Hong Kong Science Park Staff Association, and also Open API community. So we are working together to see whether on top of the annual conference, we can also work some monthly events, maybe a smaller physical event so that we can promote better on the API economy. Okay, so so let's kickstart the event of today. So let's try to introduce our keynote speakers. So Martin from the Hong Kong Science Park platform team, he will talk about the open API economy. And Martin, hello, can you hear me well?
Hey,
It's okay?
hello, Patrick. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, I can hear your voice. Can you try to share your screen? Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, sure.
All good. So I pass the time to you to let you introduce the open API ecosystem. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Morning everyone, and thank you, Patrick, and API Days for the invitation for this keynote speech. Before I'm going into the open API ecosystem and explain why it is so important, I would like to talk about something very similar in our daily life first. In order to get a better concept of the open API. Due to the globalization, every day in our daily life, we can get everything we need. So we can grab any food, any clothing that we need in the daily life. Even if it's not produced in our country of origin, so like we can easily grab an apple, a Fuji apple from Japan, or we can get some milk from the New Zealand, or even grab a car from the Europe. It even is not produced locally, but we can still get it at a very competitive price. And why is this reason? So it is because we have developed this in our world. So that is what we call the global supply chain. Every day we have tens of thousands of ship, airplane that's shipping all the goods over the world. Even it is a raw material, some processed good or some finished good. Amazingly, all these goods are very easily to track, and when we can arrive to the origin, it is we can already make it very accurate in very on time. And so because we have a well-connected system, and so everything is already very well developed, and it can deliver on a right moment. So back to the economic perspective. Actually, the country can produce their product internally. So if there is some excess production, so they can easily ship to other country, so they can make more profit. For some other country, that is they produce more specific products, so we can import them, but not just all the things we produce ourselves. In the economic perspective, this is more we can leverage our competitive edge and make all the products and make the economy more healthy, because we can get some cheap and high quality and maximize the cost effective by leveraging the global supply chain. So everyone, even is the customer or the seller, they can all benefit. So back to the digital world. Maybe if we have a global supply chain, so what is equivalent to a global supply chain in our digital world? So because everyone's talking about the digital economy now. So my answer is this is the open API. API is not just simply for software communication, but it is a way that we can trade the software and trade our software products, application, or data. So supported by the latest technology and digital infrastructure, like we have the high-speed internet, we have the big data, we have a powerful computing and storage. So right now is the most best time for the open API to realize its real power, because open API is talking about we open up some function, that key function that we already built inside our internal system, and then open up to all other people. Either it is like a free of charge, or even we can make it like a subscription. And so it's not just limited within a very small scope, but you can expand your business to the world. So how the open API will benefit to your business? So it is just a very trivial example here. So the left-hand side is a private API. So if you just build the API for like internal use, or you have to connect to some other system one by one. So your audience will be very limited. But by the open API, if you develop this open API infrastructure and then you can provide the service to all over the world. And then so your audience will quickly expand, and your market will be much bigger than now. So the other thing is, I think every company will have their competitive advantage. So some of them, maybe they are building some AI system. Some of them are building the banking service. In order to provide a total solution to our customer, sometimes we are capable to do all the technology things, but sometimes it is better that you acquire some other third-party service or data from other service provider. It's due to not you're not capable to do it, but it is just utilize your competitive advantage. So that is because you still have you can save the resource and time to focus on your own business. So like the missing puzzle here. So actually, if we want to build fast, we can, in order to make every puzzle by ourselves, we can just acquire from other companies. So through the open API. So back to the open API ecosystem. If you have everyone, I think we have an IT system at the back end. So it connects to some data and some application. So data means for example, you got some very transaction or some stock market data that is in the backend system. And so application mean maybe you have some like the robo advisor or some facial recognition NLP technology. So these all are not you can use it internally, but if you want to expand your market, you can make it as an open API. So allow the third-party developers to use your function to make some what we call the third-party application, and then the market will be quickly expand, because when you enable multiple third-party application, and then you can even reach more and more end user, by leveraging your backend open API. So these are the overview of the open API system. So we got many stakeholders. So of course, we have the open API provider, we have the developers here, and also some third-party service provider that make use of the open API. And of course, we need the industry to support. So different industry may have different specific API, like banking industry, maybe construction, and also other industry. So and also one important one is from the government, so they can speed up this kind of open API initiative by talking to many industry or setting some regulation as well. So in the open API ecosystem, I think the most important thing is the community. So we have to connect all people together from the buy side and the sell side. So, and the second thing, we have to make it standardized, so they can be connected easily. So actually, we have the open API standard right now, open API 3, and also we have the Swagger. All this standardization help the open API ecosystem. And finally, it must come with a business model. So open API, we have to make it not just only for free, right? So we have to make it like a project-based, subscription-based, make it as easy and as possible. So overall, the benefit for the open API ecosystem, we can make it your function or your data application extend your customer reach, and in order to make the revenue growth. And also last but not the least, so with all the different data and a function that open up to the ecosystem, so we can simulate much more the innovation here. So here's a quick overview of the open API ecosystem. So that's all of my keynote speech, and so let's connect by the open API. Thank you.
Hello. Thanks again, Martin. So yeah, thanks for your sharing about your thoughts on the Open API. So let's take the chance to have some quick discussion so that how maybe Hong Kong Science Park and your perspective is thinking on the Open API ecosystem. So we are quite lucky that to work with Science Park quite a lot on some initiative before. So I know that from your perspective, you are relatively neutral to the ecosystem. So you have a lot of partner, different industry, etc. So can you share maybe a few key challenges or lesson learned when you collaborate with different industry pair, and what is your quick tips or advice if someone want to collaborate more on the ecosystem?
Yeah, I think one of the key challenges are, I think some of the industry are already very well equipped in the open API architecture and system, because all the software or all the backend already make it open API first design. So, but I'm may not be all like the startup, they are ready for this. So one of the key challenge would be the initial resource to set up this open API might be difficult for them. So I think because there's quite a different that for the private API and the open API in terms of the security and scalability, because you're not just facing one internal system or one customer. You are open up your system to all the people that are interested to use your open API. So we have to maybe have to take very quite concern on the scalability and the security issue. That I think nowadays we have already many standard, and also we have many reference architecture on this open API initiative, and also I think we have a community here like Open API Days. I believe today we have a lot of the talk sharing about how we can make the Open API better, make it more scalable. So I think this challenge will be able to resolve in very soon. Yeah.
Okay, so besides the technical challenge that you mentioned, for example, the data security, etc., we do heard from our community that they said, okay, they already have the technical team. They have already got some product, but they are missing some maybe partners, networks, whatever. So can you also mention some difficulties? So if some of those TSP or third-party company, how can they better collaborate with some of the industry partner maybe you are working with besides the technical perspective? So how can they better prepare, or what kind of mindset you think they need to equip?
Yeah, I think you're right that so there's always some gap between the user and the provider. So because usually it cannot be immediately from our initial stage back to the production stage. So I think one of the key things that Hong Kong STP can help is we encourage we can make some, in order to make it more smooth, the POC should be should be done before the whole production use. So I think one key thing is if the open API, we can offer some like the tasting function. So before we full scale to use, and then they can match up or have a try easily before they are willing really do the full integration. It will be one key step that make it success. And also for the ecosystem to make it better, so we should have a platform that connect all the buyer and the seller on the open API. So make sure they can easily source those open API that would be benefit to your business. So I think these two key things would help to solve the challenge that you mentioned before here.
Okay, so I also understand that Hong Kong Science Park platform is also working with different industry. So we see a lot of hot trends or topic in open banking in the past 2 to 3 years, and then we also heard about the open insurance this years. So I
Yeah.
know that you're also working with retail, pop tech, etc. Can you share a bit what is your observation across different industry? Maybe which one of them is more mature, or what maybe the payer can better prepare, even though they are not ready yet with the governance or regulations. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the most prepared industry. I can say is the BFI industry. So that is the banking, finance, and insurance industry, as you mentioned before. So I think because we have the open banking API initiative, and also we already got lots of example here that are already using this open API concept. So because for example, the payment service already well connected to the e-commerce system. So they are so from the customer perspective, so you are not even know they are connected, because it's too well connected and it's already transparent to all the users. And also, for example, the stock market data, they are open up for for some insurtech or the robo advisor. I think in the BFI industry is already very well adopted this open API ecosystem. And for other industry, I think we are also trying to have some open API similar things to boost up the innovation in Hong Kong as well. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe one specific question maybe to the ecosystem like you. So we know that Hong Kong Science Park is actually a big ecosystem. So maybe how maybe the potential third-party providers or even the bank or enterprise can leverage your platform to better engage the API ecosystem. What are you doing? For example, we heard about the open banking API directory. Can you share a bit on that kind of thing, so that maybe our audience can understand better how they may tap into ecosystem like you?
Yeah, I think You mentioned about the open banking directory in our platform. So that is one key step that we connect all the banking API into a single platform. And also, I think the next step will be we'll have a open API hub that is the platform that we are actively engage different the service provider to provide the open API and onboard. So for example, we got some data provider, and also maybe we got some tech service provider from Hong Kong Science Park. Like they are producing some like latest technology like synthetic data engine, and also the AI engine, NLP engine, etc. So we're trying to build a community, and so if everyone onboard their open API here, so the user can easily to get what they need. And so we also try to make some use case here. So as I mentioned before, we want to build a total solution. It's not just one or two technology, but maybe like 10 technology connect each other. So I think building this ecosystem and the platform will be very important to make the user or the open API stakeholder to connect to each other.
Okay, I got your points. So and if there's some of your audience here, they're interested in the open API ecosystem from Hong Kong Science, but what they can do next? Is it contact you or whatever? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Chris, feel free to contact me, and then we have our website here, the Open API platform, and also yeah, feel free to contact me and our team from the SDP platform.
Mm. Okay, so thanks Martin for your sharing, and yeah, and hopefully we make the audience understand better how Hong Kong Science Park help on the open API ecosystem, and then we can build a better API community together. So once again, thanks Martin for your help. Okay, so see you soon. Thanks for your
Thank
time.
you. Thank you,
Okay.
Patrick.
Okay, thank you. So thanks Martin for his sharing. So we are here come to another keynote section from Jimmy Zhang. He is from the Hong Kong Computer Society, and he is going to share about the API trends and beyond. And thanks again, Jimmy, for your support this year. Can you hear me well? And is this so? Can you speak?
Yes, Patrick.
Uh,
Can you hear
yeah, yeah,
me?
yeah. Yeah, okay,
Cool.
loud and clear. So I can see your screen as well. So let me pass the time to you. Okay, thanks, Jimmy.
Thank you, Patrick, for the introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure for myself to join this event again to do some sharing with all of you. So today we are focusing on API. So basically, we want to look at the trends and how things is going in API. But first of all, um, let's look at how important is API because this is a key topic we are talking about today. So according to some of the research, basically more than one, when we look at in asking business about the how they're going to adopt API in their projects, etc., we can see actually there's an increasing trend of utilizing API in every type of projects in the business. You can see from the chart here, basically for all the digital transformation project, modernization project, or even innovation project, you can see the growth. I mean, compared to 2021, about 70 something percent of their projects are utilizing API technologies, but now actually more than 80% for all those categories. Another interesting trend we see is recently we can see companies more focusing on ESG, the social environmental kind of initiatives. So we are seeing a lot of sustainability project coming up, and a lot of them actually 80% of them will be involving API. So basically, from business investment and business initiative perspective, API is becoming even more important. Now let's move on. Look at from the developer side. So according to the research with a lot of developers in the world, you can see that actually over 90% of the developers are using API. And it's interesting fact is 69% are using third party. That means they're using API developed by other persons or provided by other producers. So you can see the ecosystem in the world on API is gradually starting to build up. And hopefully in Hong Kong or Asia Pacific, we are going to see the same trend. On the right hand side, you can see some of the chart diagram there. So actually, all kind of industry or business type are also moving more towards API. In particular, as you can see, telecom and healthcare are spending a lot of their investment on API. Oops, sorry. From the developers, when we ask them whether they're going to use more API, you can see actually more than 68% saying they're going to rely more on APIs in the future in their projects. So both from the business perspective and from developer perspective, API will be even more important. That's why it's important that all of us keep abreast on API technology and enjoy events like today's event. Okay, now let's move on. According to the research from Smart Bear, basically what the key business driver for using API. In fact, for these reasons, the business driver haven't changed much in the last few years. So the top one is still about reducing the cost and time. And you can see it's actually increasing the importance. So basically for all the business nowadays under digital economy, shorten time to market, agility, and lower cost is the top important drivers. Another two won't surprise us is because a lot of enterprise, they need to interoperate between their own system, internal system. That's why they are moving towards using API technologies. And finally, by some of the product company, they want to expand the functionality of the product. The easiest way is to build up more API. And in fact, because of the emergence of ecosystem, that is even more important. So we can see from business driver perspective in API development, those are the top 3 reasons. Oh, let's move on to looking at the technology side of API growth. So what's driving? Again, this is from Smart Bear report and doesn't really change too much. The top 10 is very similar, but you can see that in the top 3, there's still about microservice architecture and DevOps as still the dominating factor in driving all the business and people adopting API. In fact, followed by machine learning and AI won't surprise us at all, and security. One point we noticed that is when we talk about tech drivers, sometimes people now looking at about remote working. It's also a driver on other perspective as well. Okay, we talk about microservice is the dominant technology driver for API adoption. So let's look at some of the trends and statistics. So from the Datadog report, actually in the past 2 years, we can see for company or organization using microservice architecture, the number of ports in their Kubernetes environment has been doubled in the last 2 years, from 500 in average to over 1,000. That's quite a big jump there. And another interesting point to look at is when we ask the people when they do the container platform, what are the choice they are taking? We can see that actually there are lots of increase. I think it's more than 70% from previous years. And now it's really 90% of those people using microservice. They are actually leveraging public cloud managed microservice. For example, like the Azure AKS, etc. So I believe one of the key reason of that is when we start transformation, a company or enterprise want to focus their energy and resources in actually building the API and the applications. The management of the platform itself is better to rely on the public cloud service provider so that they can actually focus their effort on the actual application development. So for the audience here, if you are actually starting your journey on microservice, this is one consideration you can take. So another interesting statistic there is showing that what are the highest typical images running on those container platform. Probably I won't say I would say it won't surprise us at all, because the top 3 you can see is Nginx, Reddish, and Postgres. Because a lot of people moving to a container platform, they're talking about adopting more open source, and those are the popular choices for microservice. Okay, DevOps. This is another very important technology trend that is driving the adoption of API. So according to the DevOps market research, the prediction is the market size of DevOps market is growing very quickly. It's really it's 19% per annum. So it means more and more people adopting DevOps in their development. It won't surprise us at all, because there's this tightly coupled with using microservice. And according to other research, basically when you're not asking people who has already deployed DevOps, 99% of them have a positive feedback, saying there's a positive impact from their DevOps deployment in the organization in 2020s. And actually 61% saying by using DevOps, actually they can improve their product quality, and 49% saying actually they can shorten their time to market. This is exactly what we are looking for in a desktop environment. So when it comes to DevOps, sometimes we have a decision on what kind of tools we want to use for DevOps. Again, it shouldn't surprise us at all. The top tools is GitHub and Jenkins. It's quite popular because it's starting a long time ago. But we are seeing other tools actually picking up speed, like for GitLab, or even if people use enterprise using Azure, Microsoft, they are probably using Azure pipeline as well. So next one, another driver on API adoption is machine learning and artificial intelligence. So again, from the market research report from the DevOps, the AI growth in the next few years is very high. It's like 30% per annum. So and when the survey asks about leaders, what kind of business or what kind of functions they are going to adopt AI and ML, 33% saying is using for business analytics and 25% for security. So if your organization is looking for doing more business analytics and also looking for enhancing your security, so probably looking for some surface or product with a great API support will not be a bad bet on that one. So since we're talking about security, security is absolutely important in modern days digital world. So API is no exception. So as you can see from the chart here, from the State of API Security Report from SOT, you can see those lines are going up. What it means is very simple. Actually, the number of malicious attack, API attack, has been increasing a lot in the past years. So actually, you can see the increase is quite alarming. It's more than 100%. So I think according to another research, we are talking overall in the world, about more than 2% of API calls are actually malicious in attack. So we are seeing the trend is going up. So basically, security is something you have to really pay attention if you want to adopt more API technologies. In fact, when we look at security for API, it's not that simple. You cannot just acquire a product or acquire one service and believe that can address all your security concern. There, you need to handle the whole API life cycle. So people talk about shift left, but that is not the only solution, because although you can address some of the security problem during your development or even the planning stage, but there's also some other threats that are coming out in the production phase. So when you look at the overall security, it has to be end to end, and your strategy in handling API security has to be end to end. So the next slide is showing some response from those people taking the survey about the kind of threat they are concerned about from API. So you can say that the highest top 42% is talking about they're worried about zombie API. It's about API that have been left there after a while, and your developer have developed new version or new API capability, but forget about those old one that's already running. So that's why I'm saying in the last slide that the whole life cycle management is very important. Otherwise, you can expect you will have a lot of zombie API running around, and that may become a vulnerability within your environment for the hackers. Another concern from people about API is about account takeover or exposure of sensitive information. For example, if your API, when you decide you expose unnecessary data, that may become a problem in other areas. So again, the security of API is not simple. You start from the planning, design, all the way to the production running. Okay, next trend we'll talk about is IoT. In the last few years, IoT has been growing a lot in the world, and everybody is expecting the expansion of IoT. And the annual growth rate is about 20%. And in fact, we are seeing a lot of IoT service or product. They are actually using API to connecting to different API platform service, etc. So as I mentioned in the very beginning, we are seeing a lot of business. They are starting to run some ESG related initiatives, and even starting from very simple like your workspace environment. If you want to measure the cloudiness with your environment, whether people are using in the room, whether you want to reduce your electricity footprint, etc. A lot of things depends on IoTs, and those IoT will be pushing data back to your AI or your system or your application at the back end through different APIs. And therefore, ESG initiative is one of the key drivers in the growing use of API, actually. Next, let's look at the protocols. So basically, when the survey asks people about what kind of protocol they use, um, it's expected. REST is the dominant choices in the moment. But another trend we are seeing is more than 80% of respondents saying that in their environment or their project, they're actually using more than one. So as you can see, now people starting to get used to API, and they start thinking in some scenario, REST may not be enough to fulfill their requirement. They start looking for alternatives. And in particular, there are a couple of alternatives that we're seeing a growing trend in the market. For example, GraphQL and also Kafka, we can see they are increasing a lot of attraction from the market. The growth is quite significant. So for example, GraphQL is increased from 19% to 24%, and Kafka is actually just jumped into the list, and then it's 90% of organizations already using it. So I think one of the insight from this is for your development team, they need to keep pace with the development, and in fact, they should be um, learning more on the new kind of API technologies through attending a seminar like this one, etc., to keep them abreast of those things so that they can actually use it and apply it in their own projects. So GraphQL, just a little bit of the benefit, talking about why we prefer GraphQL sometimes over RESTful API is the key advantage is it actually it can fit very well to very complicated business requirement. And you can also prevent the typical overfetching, underfetching problem within RESTful API. And in fact, the GraphQL also have out-of-the-box validation of the data and the field that actually can improve your security. And another interesting statistic from some market surveys, you're seeing that now more than 70% people thinking GraphQL will become the future API, dominant API protocol that people will be using. So it's probably the right timing we start learning that and test it around. Okay, Kafka. Kafka, although it's gaining a lot of popularity in the market, but when we look at the primary reason of that is about event-driven architecture. That actually address some of the limitation in RESTful API kind of situation. So according to Gartner, some paper published a couple of years back, they define event-driven architecture 3 types: queue-oriented, log-oriented, and subscription-oriented. They have different pros and cons. For example, if you want to retain those information and replay information, or you have to stream a lot of information, log-oriented model may be better fit. If you want to have different consumer using different protocol, heterogeneous environment, maybe queue-oriented is better suit your environment. So I think event-driven architecture is gaining a lot of popularity in the market as well because of they can address some of the limitation of RESTful API. And therefore, we also encourage developer to start experimenting those architecture and start using that kind of API so they can actually make their tools more, the API repository more of complete and be able to serve different business requirement. Okay, now let's move on to API specification trends. Martin, at the previous keynote speaker, talking about Open API, but when according to survey, people still very get used to Swagger and using JSON schema. It won't surprise people, and in fact that will be continued. But again, since the Open API is is becoming more mature and getting more traction in the market, I think again, as developer, we should also embrace ourselves of the new specification and start moving towards some of the standards in the market to improve the interoperability, etc. Now let's move to the end of my presentation. I just want to capture some of the major challenges that we see from those different survey and report from the market. So as you can see here, actually, this is about producing API, the obstacle. But in fact, if you look at the other flip side of the coin about consuming API, it's quite similar actually. people or developer telling or IT decision maker is actually facing the challenge. The top three are we don't have enough people and time. That's actually not just API. It's about digital transformation. Everyone is lacking the resources. But another key obstacle we can see is from the producing perspective is the lack of design skill. That because as you can see, the use of API has been increasing um, very quickly in the market, and every enterprise project is adopting API. And because we don't have that many people, and in fact, people with resources is one of the limitations. Therefore, it's very understandable. The people with the right skill in designing API is very scarce, and therefore, with more project coming up, that will be another problem. So for company, we should be to better prepare yourself on going for the API journey. We should make sure we develop the people, establish the standard, and make sure we can have proper standard for your team to follow instead of every developer or designer doing their own thing. That will actually help address this issue. Another thing didn't mention here about, for example, consuming API challenges about documentation. That's one of the, I think this is the top one challenge that for people consuming API has reflected in the survey. So again, beside writing very good code and using all the tools, CI/CD, etc., I think documentation is still a very important point. How to make sure that your API is well documented and also people can easily understand how to use it is another angle in driving this API journey. You can have the best API in the world, the most secure API in the world, but if nobody understands how to use it, that will not be useful at all. So just want to remind the audience here, besides the technical part, we also need to look at the usability side of the API as well. So yeah, that's actually the last the conclusion of my presentation and sharing. Thanks all for listening.
Okay, so thanks, Jimmy, and then this is a very good overview. So we believe that in our upcoming 40 plus talk section, we actually covered the detail of different part of from Jimmy, like Kafka, the developer experience, etc. So we still have 1 or 2 minutes, but just a quick question maybe to Jimmy. So I forgot to mention, Jimmy is actually from the enterprise architectural specialized group. So he's from the enterprise architecture background. So what we generally talk to the business is that, okay, they have the technical challenge and also the operation and business challenge. You do mention besides the technical part, there should be also the governance part, the documentation part, etc. So can you share 1 or 2 quick tips? Okay, when the if we need to open up some API to external parties or even across team, do you have 1 or 2 tips to share to the audience? Well, besides the pure technical part, what they should pay attention? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. This is a very good question. As I mentioned, because of there are so many technologies and there are also lack of resources and skill in the market. But on the other side of the coin, a lot of enterprise companies are driving and trying to using API in more of their projects. That actually come up a very difficult question. Is if every project doing their own thing or every developer doing their own API design, that would become a chaos in the near futures, and it will become a governance problem. As I mentioned, there are lots of security concern and issues about zombie API, etc. So I think for enterprise, if they are going to adopt the API journey, I think the first one they need to think about is their overall strategy on their API. So are they going to use it? What's the ultimate goal of it? Are they going to focusing on internal system integration, or they are going to actually adopt the open API and also monitoring the API? That's the number one. The number one is about the business strategy, what they are going to do, and then they should have a roadmap about how they move towards that strategy. In fact, I don't think it will be a very simple roadmap for all the enterprise to adopt API in their journey. It's probably like 2 to 3 years at least to become more mature. Since I'm from the enterprise architecture background, I can tell you that it's not that simple. Just buying a API product or API management gateway and then deploy it. There are lots of integration. There are lots of standard that you need to establish and also train your people to use. So once you have the strategy, you have the roadmap, then you need to select your products and you need to establish your standard so that your development team can actually using the STEM language and STEM approach to develop their program, and that actually can improve your reusability. I think that's one of the key objective of microservice API is to reuse as much as possible, and then you can continuously evolve your API and application with a shorter time to market, etc. So I think probably that's just my 2 cents on how people can go for the API journey.
Okay, maybe just one quick extension on the previous topic. So we also talk to different kind of a company. They have the thoughts to adapt the modern API or modern architecture, but most of the enterprise they have challenges. Okay, they have already got a solid, robust, maybe I would say legacy or traditional architecture running well for 10 years. So maybe like what you mentioned about the outdated or zombie API, but it's still working. So do you suggest that maybe there should be two group of governance on how you may be recommending the enterprise, how they can leverage the best of the both worlds? Do you need to have two different dedicated team, etc.? Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, Patrick, you just raised. In fact, from my personal point of view, I think it's more appropriate to have two groups or two teams to start with, because I've been running operation for more than decades, so I can tell you that it's difficult for people to change. And in fact, if you look at the different development paradigm, the mode 1 and the mode 2, they're quite different. So if you want to build up your capability, I would suggest you actually start with a small team, a new team, and then they start gaining momentum and they have the maturity in place already and the governance. Then you can start thinking about how to integrate the two groups together and how to eventually merge into one. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Dreamy, for your answer. So this is a very typical question, and every years we did the API days, and then after that we got a bunch of questions. This is the top one question. So I take the chance to see your point of view as well. So once again, thanks for Dreamy's support this year as well. So we are going to move to our next sections. So thanks again, Dreamy. Okay.
Thanks, Patrick. Thank you. Bye bye.
Okay. See you soon. Okay, thank you. So thanks everyone. So this morning we just finished two keynote section from the Hong Kong Science Park at Martin to talk about the open API ecosystem, and also Jimmy to talk about the API trends and beyond. So maybe let me quickly share my slide here. Okay, so we will have a quick short break, and then we can come back at 10:55 a.m. And then we will have divide the section in three tracks. So the first track will be more on the industrial track, talking about the BFSI and the platform economy. We will have speakers from HSBC, from AXA, AWS, and also Standard Chartered to talk about the API use cases. So if you're interested in how the industry or leading player is doing, feel free to join that track. If you are more interested in the IT architecture, the technical integration, etc., we have the second track talking about the API first architecture. So we have people and experts from New Relic, from Kong, and OpenHive, and also Conference on that one. If you are looking for more practical hands-on experience, we do have a special one table and also workshop in the third track, which is talking about the actual event-driven architecture that also mentioned from Jamie. Okay, so take the chance to take a break and feel free to visit some of the exhibition booth, and we do have a special campaign talking about treasure hunt to win about 4,000 Hong Kong dollars gift card. So try to pay attention and try to pay around with that. So see you soon, and then in 25 minutes. Thank you.